we're going to try something a little different in our freeze drying. Rather than just doing their apple slices like they are, I went ahead and sliced them up. I cut this in half and cut it in quarters, cut the core out, and I cut the ends off, and I tried it. I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to try mixing sea salt, ground cinnamon, and allspice. Make up a little powder. So I mixed them together. What I did was I took a scoop. This is a quarter teaspoon. I put 3 scoops or 3/4 of a teaspoon of sea salt, and then I put in let's see, what is it, 6 of the cinnamon and 3 of the allspice. So then I made up a powder, mix it all together, and put it in a little salt shaker, and I'm going to shake that on the apple as I get them in here. And we're going to try and see how they taste, because they'll be kind of like having a little freeze-dried apple pie. And I might try some with stevia on it for sweetener and see how that works. I'll try this one here with just this. I might try a tray or 2 with this and try some with the stevia. I mixed up some, like what it is after I slice, and there's always that piece at the end that's not really very big. I use that as my test samples because, a little bit more skin on them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this tray up with what I have. This here is 1 apple cut up. Back off here a little bit so you can kind of see what apple is going to do. It looks like what I did on before is we'll have one of these trays should fit in one of the pint jars. One of these this size here, and that'd be about 2 apples in there. That's what I had. These are just regular apples that are dried. Now, of course, they're going to turn a little bit dark because, they kind of oxidize and they turn a bit dark. So I'm going to try that. We're going to take this and start sprinkling some of this on. Just like this. I don't want it on really thick, I don't think. Because, when they dry, they kind of get a little bit stronger flavor. And I think I have, yep, I had 2 of them here. So we'll put that back in here. Sprinkle a little powder on here. And then what I'll use for a sweetener is I'll put some stevia in there. So I'll mix up a tray with this, and then I'll mix some up and do some samples in the next one, see if the stevia will work. You remember, right, I grew some stevia and I dried it out in a dehydrator. One of these days, watch for one. When I grow some more, we'll do it in a freeze dryer and see how that turns out. But anyway, I'm going to finish filling this tray up, and then we'll get the freeze dryer going, and we'll fill them up with apples, and then we'll come back. Now here's what I'm slicing up. I got them sliced in quarters, have it cored out, and what I do is lay it on the side. And I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to slice them down this way, all the way down, and then that last end piece I've been using those for my samples. So that's how I'm cutting it. I can't do this one-handed because I'm holding it, but I'm going to slice it down like that. All right, here I've got these all sliced up. You can see I've sliced them like that, and it's these end pieces here. I could freeze dry them, but you know what? I don't mind eating them, so I'll put some seasoning on here, and I'll use these for testing different concentrations of the powder. And these seem to be pretty good. I tested this one. This one looks pretty good. So I'll come back once I get the tray loaded. I made up another batch. This time I put a little sweetener in it. So what I did was I originally put in the other one 3, 6, and 3 of the allspice. So what I did was I mixed that, and then I put 3 more cinnamon, 1 more sea salt, and 2 more allspice, and then I put in 2 scoops of the stevia powder, and it made it a little bit sweeter. Not sure if it's going to taste much different, but I did 2 trays of the other mix. I did 2 trays of this one, and we can test them and see how they turn out. So that's what I did, and each of the scoops are a 1/4 teaspoon a scoop. We have the trays ready. This top one and the second one is the first mixture I made up, and then the bottom one is the one I added a little stevia in it for sweetener. So we're going to go ahead and get this started. We're going to hit continue. Our drain valve is closed, so we're all ready to go. We'll come back once it gets done, and we'll taste them and see how they turned out. We're done freeze drying the apple slices with the different spices. So I haven't even tried them yet. So this is what they look like after they're dried. And let's just see what one of these are like. Nice and crunchy. It almost tastes like an apple pie. Now remember, this is the one with just the salt, cinnamon, and allspice on it. And these two trays also have a little stevia for sweetener in there with it. So I'm going to try one of these. It kind of almost tastes like you're eating an apple pie. Well, and that's what I was going for. So now we'll get these packaged up in some jars. Because once you open them up, they don't last long. A lot of stuff like the apples and the pears, we open a jar up when people come over, and yeah, it don't take long, it's gone. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these out, and I'll put them in jars, and I'll come back once they're in jars. And we're back. I have them all in the containers. These three here are the ones without the stevia, and these three are the ones with the stevia for sweetener. I got three pint jars full of each one. Each tray held a little bit more, what would fit in 2 pint jars, so I was able to get 3 in there. And I did have a little bit of extra in a jar here. I put some in here. There's some pears that we had done earlier that opened up, and I put them in there and sealed them just so that you can see they're mixed in there. That was a little bit extra, so I had a little bit more than that. And these are some apples that we had opened up that when we had our little party here last weekend, we opened them up and they were trying them, so I went ahead and sealed those back up. But that is what those 4 trays of apples did, and they do taste really good that way, so you might have to try it. Put some just the spices you put on it for apple pie. The one thing I didn't put on there is nutmeg, which is in a lot of apple pie recipes that I didn't see any nutmeg in the cabinet, so I didn't put that on. But those still taste pretty good.